Buffalo Bills fans, sit down, because this one is going to sting a little. A massive, months-long project that grades every single roster in the entire NFL just wrapped up, and the results for your Buffalo Bills are finally here. And folks, it is not exactly the fairy tale ending you were hoping for. But before you throw your remote at the TV, stick around, because there is a twist in this story that should give every Bills Mafia member a reason to breathe a little easier. Here's the setup. Two dedicated football analysts spent the better part of 3 months combing through every roster in the league, breaking down every player, every coach, every single depth chart position, and assigning them a grade based on tiers. We're talking cornerstone players, the best of the best, quality starters, sufficient level starters, quality depth guys, replacement level players, and then the wild card category, incomplete evaluations, which mostly covers rookies and unproven backups. Every position on the roster gets weighted differently based on how important it is, and from there, a total score is calculated for all 32 teams. This isn't some hot take, gut-feeling ranking. This is a cold, hard, numbers-based system that has apparently outperformed even ESPN's own Power Index in past seasons when it comes to predicting playoff teams and win totals. So where do the Buffalo Bills land in this brutal, unforgiving numbers game? Drumroll please, the Bills come in at number 14 overall in the entire National Football League. 14, right in the middle of the pack. Not embarrassing, but certainly not the kind of number that gets put on a highlight reel either. But hold on, before you spiral into panic mode, here's the twist. That number 14 ranking includes coaching. And when you strip coaching completely out of the equation and look purely at roster talent, the Bills actually jump all the way up to number 9 in the league. 9. That's a 5-spot swing based entirely on the fact that Buffalo is rolling into this season with a rookie head coach and a rookie defensive coordinator. The system doesn't punish potential, but it also refuses to hand out points based on hope and vibes. If there's no track record, there are no points. Simple as that. And look, this isn't some doom and gloom sentence for the Bills. In fact, there's a real precedent for optimism here. Just last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars rolled into the season with a rookie head coach and a rookie defensive coordinator of their own, and their coaching score sat at a measly 3.5 points out of 10. This year, they're sitting at 8.5. That's a 5-point jump in a single offseason simply because the coaching staff proved themselves. If Buffalo's new leadership does the same, if the new voice in the building shows he's the real deal, and if the new defensive coordinator finds his footing, that same kind of leap could be right around the corner for the Bills. Right now, Buffalo's coaching score sits at 4.76 points. There is a mountain of room to grow. Now let's talk about just how tight this race actually is across the league, because the margins here are razor thin. The number 4 team in the entire NFL, the Denver Broncos, scored 36.5 points. The number 18 team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, scored just over 30. That means there's roughly a 7-point gap separating a top 5 team from a team sitting in the bottom half of the league. When you zoom out and look at the top 22 or 23 rosters in football, it becomes pretty clear that this league is wide open. Nearly 2/3 of the teams in the NFL could realistically be playoff contenders this year. And Buffalo, sitting right in that competitive cluster, has one massive trump card that most of those other teams simply don't have. A generational quarterback wearing number 17. Let's run down exactly who's ahead of Buffalo and who's chasing them, because the full list is honestly fascinating. Sitting at number 1 in the entire league are the Los Angeles Rams. Seattle checks in at number 2. Green Bay lands at number 3. Denver rounds out the top 4. San Francisco takes the 5th spot. Then comes Kansas City at number 6. And yes, before you get upset, the analysts openly admit the Chiefs are massively propped up by having Andy Reid, defensive mastermind Steve Spagnuolo, and Patrick Mahomes all in the building, even though the rest of their roster isn't nearly as loaded as people think. Detroit sits at 7, New England at 8, Philadelphia at 9, Houston at 10. Dallas takes 11, Baltimore 12, Jacksonville 13, and then finally we arrive at Buffalo, locked in at number 14. Right behind the Bills are the Chicago Bears at 15, Pittsburgh at 16, Cincinnati at 17, and Tampa Bay rounding out the 18 spot. The list continues all the way down through the Chargers, Colts, Saints, Vikings, Commanders, Giants, Titans, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Raiders, Jets, Browns, and finally the Arizona Cardinals bringing up the rear at dead last, number 32. Now let's actually dig into why the Bills landed where they did, position group by position group, because this is where things get spicy. First up, and arguably the most important category in the entire exercise, quarterback. Buffalo ranks number 4 in the league at the quarterback position. Now, before you get confused about how Josh Allen, a player who receives the maximum possible score a quarterback can earn, somehow isn't ranked number 1, here's the explanation. This category also factors in your backup quarterback. Because Buffalo's backup is graded as a replacement-level player. It costs the team a small fraction of a point, dropping them slightly behind a few other teams who also have elite starting quarterbacks but slightly more proven backups. Either way, when you're talking about the difference between being ranked number 1 and number 4 at the most important position in football, that's about as good as it gets. Josh Allen remains an absolute cheat code for this roster. Next, let's talk offensive skill positions, your running backs, tight ends, and receivers combined. Buffalo ranks a very respectable number 10 in the league here. Ahead of them sit Detroit, the Rams, Green Bay, Minnesota, San Francisco, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Atlanta, and Dallas. So what's boosting Buffalo's number here? James Cook. He's graded as a franchise cornerstone running back, one of the true elite players at his position in the entire league, and that designation comes with serious point value. Behind him, both Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox earn sufficient level starter grades at tight end, which is a luxury most teams simply don't have. A legitimate 1-2 punch at the position. At receiver, DJ Moore and Khalil Shakir both check in as sufficient level starters, and the third receiver spot, whether that ends up being Coleman or Palmer, still earns quality depth points. Same story with the backup running back spot. The one thing working against Buffalo here? Outside of James Cook, not a single skill player grades higher than sufficient level starter. There's no true blue-chip receiver, no true number 1 alpha threat at wideout. Dalton Kincaid absolutely has the talent to become a full-blown quality starter or even a cornerstone-level tight end. But he hasn't put together the consistent body of work yet to earn those extra points. Still, a top 10 ranking with quality depth across the board and 0 rookies dragging the score down is nothing to scoff at. Now on to the offensive line, and this is where Buffalo really flexes. The Bills rank number 5 in the entire NFL up front. Ahead of them are Tampa Bay, Denver, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. What's fueling this ranking? Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, and Connor McGovern all earn quality starter grades. That's 3 legitimate, proven starters up front. On the flip side, Dawkins actually lost his previous cornerstone status. Last year, he was graded as an elite top-tier tackle, but this year he's been bumped down to just a quality starter. The left guard spot, presumably manned by Alec Anderson, is graded only as quality depth since he hasn't proven himself as a true starting caliber player yet. And the swing tackle spot, likely occupied by Tommy Doyle, is labeled a complete unknown. An incomplete evaluation that doesn't help or hurt, but leaves a question mark. Even with those dings, a top 5 offensive line ranking is elite company. Add it all up, the quarterback situation, the skill position depth, and the offensive line. And when you isolate purely offensive categories, including the offensive coordinator, Buffalo actually rockets up to number 2 in the entire NFL. Only the Los Angeles Rams rank higher. San Francisco, Green Bay, and Cincinnati round out the top 5 behind Buffalo. That is an enormous statement. This offense, on paper, is a top 2 unit in professional football. The expectations should be sky high, and frankly, they always are. With Josh Allen at the controls, this has been a top 3 scoring offense nearly every single year he's been the starter. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Because, folks, the defensive side of the ball tells a much scarier tale. Let's start with the defensive line, which includes both the edge rushers and interior defensive tackles. Buffalo ranks 23rd in the league here. That's bottom 10 territory. Behind them sit the Raiders, Lions, Falcons, Vikings, Bears, 49ers, Dolphins, Cardinals, and Saints, rounding out the bottom of the league. What's propping up Buffalo's score at all? Greg Rousseau, graded as a legitimate quality starter, and he's the only player on the entire defensive front to earn that distinction. Bradley Chubb, Ed Oliver, and Michael Holt are all classified as merely sufficient-level players, not quite elite. And then things get murky fast. T.J. Parker and T.J. Sanders are both labeled incomplete evaluations, meaning there simply isn't enough game tape to know what they truly are yet. Rookie standout Deon Walker gets some partial credit for flashing during his debut season, but he's not earning full starter points either. When 3 out of your top 7 defensive linemen are contributing next to nothing to your score, a 23rd place ranking might actually be a generous outcome. Then there's linebacker, the smallest category on the entire board outside of specialists, but still a concerning one for Buffalo. The Bills rank 28th in the league at linebacker. Only the Falcons, Colts, Patriots, and Bengals rank lower. Terrell Bernard is the lone bright spot, still graded as a sufficient-level starter despite a rough injury-plagued season last year. The analysts are giving him credit based on his track record before the setback. Beyond Bernard, though, there's not much helping the cause. Dorian Williams checks in as quality depth, and rookie linebacker Khalil Delams earns 0 real points simply because he hasn't played a snap yet. That means 2 out of Buffalo's top 3 linebackers are essentially non-factors in the scoring model right now. Now for some good news on defense, the secondary. Buffalo actually ranks a solid number 12 in the league among defensive backs, and the gap between number 1 and number 12 is shockingly small. Houston tops the list, followed by Denver, Seattle, the Rams, New England, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Chicago, rounding out the top 11 ahead of Buffalo. What's working in the Bills' favor? Cole Bishop and Christian Benford both earn quality starter grades, while Dane Jackson and C.J. Gardner-Johnson both check in as sufficient-level starters. The drag on the score comes from the cornerback 2 spot, which remains a total mystery, whether it ends up being a returning veteran or a younger option stepping up. There simply isn't enough information yet to assign it real points, and that uncertainty bleeds into the 3rd cornerback spot as well. If that 2nd cornerback role were locked down by a proven sufficient-level starter, Buffalo's secondary would likely crack the top 5 in the entire league. That's how thin the margins really are. Put the entire defense together, and Buffalo lands at 26th overall in the NFL, a genuinely uncomfortable number for a team with championship aspirations. Only the Jets, Falcons, Bengals, Dolphins, Raiders, and Cardinals rank worse. But it's crucial to understand what this number does and does not represent. It measures what is known right now based on tape and track record. It does not account for the growth some of these young players could show, the impact a completely new coaching staff and new defensive scheme might have, or the potential for a full defensive turnaround under new leadership. It doesn't mean anyone believes the Bills' defense will actually finish as the 26th worst unit in football. It simply means, based on cold facts today, that's where the roster currently stacks up. Rounding things out, special teams. Buffalo checks in at 24th in the league, with the Saints, Bears, Bengals, Chargers, Dolphins, Ravens, Cardinals, and Vikings the only teams ranked lower. Long snapper Reed Ferguson is one of the most respected veterans at his position anywhere in football and provides a boost. Kicker Tyler Bass earns a sufficient level grade as well. The The drag here comes at punter, where the presumed starter earns essentially no points due to lack of an established track record. So now, the moment of truth. What happens when you strip away both the coaching situation and, more dramatically, Josh Allen himself? What does this Buffalo roster look like on paper without its superstar signal caller? The answer might make you wince. Number 15 in the entire league, right in the dead middle of the pack. Ahead of Buffalo sit the Rams, Seattle, Philadelphia, Denver, Houston, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Detroit, Dallas, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Baltimore, New England, and Atlanta. Behind the Bills come the Bears, Giants, Colts, and even Kansas City, whose own roster, once you remove Mahomes and Andy Reid from the equation, actually ranks lower than Buffalo's. And honestly, that number 15 ranking confirms something a lot of die-hard fans have quietly suspected for a while now. This is a fundamentally average roster that gets elevated into championship contention purely because of the once-in-a-generation talent wearing number 17. That's not an insult. That's just the reality of modern football. Every contender needs a superstar quarterback to carry the load, and Buffalo has one of the very best in the world doing exactly that. So where does all of this leave Bills fans heading into the season? Cautiously optimistic, with eyes wide open. This might honestly be one of the most uncertain seasons for this roster in years. New coaching staff, unproven pieces at linebacker and defensive line, a cornerback spot still very much up for grabs. But there's also a flip side worth remembering. Almost every single question mark on this roster represents pure upside, not guaranteed decline. If Dalton Kincaid takes the leap to a true quality starter, if Deion Dawkins reclaims his cornerstone status, if the new coaching staff finds its footing the way Jacksonville's did last season, if that second cornerback spot gets locked down by a legitimate starter, every one of those outcomes pushes Buffalo's numbers dramatically higher, and there simply aren't many obvious regression risks lurking among the players everyone already knows are good. At the end of the day, the story is simple. This is a team built on the back of arguably the best all-around quarterback in football, surrounded by a genuinely elite offensive supporting cast, but carrying real, legitimate questions on defense heading into the year. The ceiling remains sky high. The margin for error might be a little slimmer than fans would like, but with number 17 under center, Buffalo always has a puncher's chance against anybody in the league. So Bills Mafia, what do you think? Is this roster ranking dead on, or does it completely miss the mark on what this team is capable of? Sound off in the comments below and let us know where you think Buffalo actually stacks up against the rest of the NFL. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, drop a comment with your predictions for the season, and make sure you hit subscribe right here at Buffalo Focus so you never miss a single update as training camp heats up and the season kicks into gear. Go Bills, and we'll see you in the next one.